In a startling demonstration of its evolving military capabilities, Ukraine has executed one of its most audacious attacks of the war. On the 9th of December, 2025, a Ukrainian drone traveled over 1,300 kilometers, a distance greater than that between London and Rome, to strike deep within the Russian Federation. The target was not a frontline position, but a crucial logistics hub nestled in Kyzyl, within the Republic of Tatarstan. This operation represents a significant escalation, proving that few places within European Russia can now be considered truly safe from Ukrainian reach. The successful strike marks a new chapter in the conflict, one defined by technological ingenuity and the courage to take the fight directly to the aggressor's rear. The facility in Tatarstan was no ordinary warehouse. It was a central nerve point for Russia's relentless drone campaign against Ukraine. This logistics and storage center was instrumental in housing and preparing the Iranian-designed Shahed drones, which Russia has rebranded as the Yeren 2. These unmanned aerial vehicles have been the backbone of Russia's strategy to terrorize Ukrainian cities and systematically dismantle its energy infrastructure. By striking this hub, Ukraine aimed to sever a critical link in the supply chain that fuels these devastating attacks, hitting Russia where it organizes its offensive operations far from the immediate chaos of the front lines. The destruction of this site was a calculated blow against Russia's capacity to wage its air war. The financial and material impact of the strike was substantial. According to an assessment by Ukraine's security service, the operation inflicted an estimated $45 million in losses upon the Russian military. This figure accounts not only for the ready-to-use drones destroyed in the attack, but also a significant cache of foreign-made components essential for their assembly and maintenance. Each Shahed drone is relatively inexpensive, costing between $20,000 and $50,000, but their effectiveness lies in their deployment in overwhelming numbers. By eliminating a large stock in a single, precise hit, Ukraine has imposed a significant cost on Russia, disrupting the economics of its attrition-based warfare and making it harder to sustain the high volume of attacks. This operation was the culmination of meticulous intelligence gathering and planning. Ukrainian agencies, including the security service, had been monitoring the Kyzyl facility for an extended period. They employed a combination of satellite imagery analysis and other intelligence methods to understand the site's operational rhythm. The strike was carefully timed to coincide with a moment when the hub held its maximum concentration of drones and valuable components, ensuring the attack would have the greatest possible impact. This level of precision and patience highlights a growing sophistication in Ukrainian military strategy, moving beyond defensive actions to conduct proactive, high-value strikes that shape the battlefield from hundreds of kilometers away. The star of this long-range operation is believed to be the Ludi, a domestically developed Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicle that has truly come of age. Introduced in 2024, the Ludi drone was engineered specifically for deep strike missions, a direct answer to the challenges posed by Russia's vast territory. Its specifications are impressive, boasting a wingspan of approximately 6.7 meters and a takeoff weight of around 250 to 300 kilograms. This allows it to carry a substantial payload of up to 75 kilograms, powerful enough to inflict serious damage on hardened targets like logistics depots and military infrastructure. The Ludi represents a significant leap for Ukraine's indigenous defense industry. The drone's most critical feature is its remarkable range. While publicly acknowledged to fly over 1,000 kilometers, it is widely understood that upgraded variants, likely used in the Tatarstan strike, can push this boundary to 2,000 kilometers. This capability fundamentally alters the strategic map of the war. Previously untouchable Russian assets, including command centers, air bases, and key industrial sites in regions like the Urals, are now theoretically within striking distance. The Ludi drone effectively extends the battlefield deep into Russia, forcing the Kremlin to contend with a threat that emanates from Ukraine, but can materialize almost anywhere west of the Ural Mountains, stretching its defensive posture to its limits. A key factor in the mission's success was the drone's ability to evade Russia's extensive air defense network. The Ludi is equipped with advanced navigation systems, including satellite guidance and a terrain-following radar, which allows it to fly at extremely low altitudes. By hugging the contours of the ground, it effectively stays below the detection threshold of many Russian ground-based radar systems. Furthermore, its airframe is constructed from composite materials, which significantly reduce its radar cross-section, making it a stealthy and difficult target to track. This combination of low-altitude flight and reduced observability enabled it to penetrate hundreds of kilometers of airspace undetected. The development and successful deployment of the Ludi drone signal a major maturation of Ukraine's defense industry under the pressures of war. Facing limitations on the use of Western-supplied long-range weapons for strikes inside Russia, Ukraine has channeled its engineering talent into creating its own solutions. The Ludi is a prime example of this asymmetric innovation, providing a cost-effective yet highly potent tool for projecting power. This self-reliance not only grants Ukraine greater strategic autonomy, but also demonstrates its ability to create sophisticated weapon systems capable of challenging a numerically superior adversary on its own turf, showcasing a remarkable resilience and ingenuity. The strike on the Tatarstan drone hub is more than just a single tactical victory. It represents a fundamental shift in Ukraine's overarching military strategy. For much of the war, Ukraine's air defense has been necessarily reactive, focused on the monumental task of intercepting the constant barrage of Russian missiles and drones. This new phase, however, sees Ukraine moving from a purely defensive posture to a proactive one. The goal is no longer just to shoot down incoming threats but to dismantle the very ecosystem that enables these attacks. By targeting logistics hubs, assembly plants, and component depots, Ukraine is taking the fight to the source, aiming to disrupt the entire supply chain of Russia's drone warfare. This change in approach is a direct response to Russia's brutal and sustained campaign against Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. Since the early spring of 2025, Russia has relentlessly targeted Ukraine's energy grid, seeking to plunge the nation into darkness and break the will of its people. A recent major assault on the 6th of December saw over 650 drones and 51 missiles launched at power facilities across 8 regions. By striking back at the sources of these weapons, Ukraine is sending a clear message. Such attacks will not go unanswered. The strike in Tatarstan is a form of strategic reciprocity, imposing direct costs on the Russian military for its actions against Ukrainian civilians. Hitting deep targets like the one in Kyzyl Ule serves a vital strategic purpose by degrading Russia's attrition-based model of warfare. Russia has relied heavily on the low cost of Shahed drones to overwhelm Ukraine's more sophisticated and expensive air defense systems. By launching swarms of these drones, Russia forces Ukraine to expend valuable interceptor missiles that can cost many times more than the drones they destroy. By blowing up a large warehouse full of these drones before they can even be launched, Ukraine disrupts this calculus. It is a far more efficient and sustainable strategy to destroy dozens of drones on the ground with a single Ukrainian UAV than to shoot them down one by one over Ukrainian skies. This proactive strategy is not limited to a single target. The Tatarstan operation is part of a broader, coordinated campaign to weaken Russia's rear capabilities. In the same week, Ukrainian drones reportedly targeted the Engels air base in the Saratov region, a home for strategic bombers that launch cruise missiles at Ukraine. Other attacks have damaged critical infrastructure, such as electricity towers in the Rostov region, further complicating Russia's military logistics. This pattern of escalating strikes demonstrates a cohesive and deliberate effort to systematically degrade Russia's ability to sustain its war effort, proving that Ukraine is now capable of conducting complex, multi-pronged operations deep inside enemy territory. The success of the 1,300-kilometer strike has starkly exposed critical vulnerabilities in Russia's rear-area air defenses. The Kremlin has long projected an image of an impenetrable, layered air defense network capable of protecting its vast territory. However, the Ludi drone's undetected journey to Tatarstan tells a different story. It suggests that while Russia may have heavily fortified its front lines and key strategic sites like Moscow, its coverage across the expansive interior is thin and porous. Layered systems that should have detected and intercepted the incoming drone failed completely, revealing a significant gap between perceived strength and actual capability that Ukraine has now expertly exploited. This exposure forces a difficult dilemma upon the Russian military command. To prevent a repeat of such an embarrassing and damaging attack, Russia must now consider redeploying its precious air defense assets, like the Panzer and Tor systems, to protect a much larger geographical area. This means stretching already strained resources over thousands of square kilometers of internal territory, from industrial cities to remote military bases. Every system moved to protect a factory in Tatarstan or an airfield near the Urals is one that can no longer be used to protect troops on the front line or occupied territories in Ukraine, potentially creating new vulnerabilities elsewhere. The psychological impact of this strike within Russia cannot be overstated. For the Russian public and military alike, the war has largely been something that happens over there, in Ukraine. The idea that a Ukrainian drone could bypass all defenses and strike a target deep in the heartland shatters this illusion of safety and distance. It brings the reality of the conflict home in a tangible way, proving that no region is truly immune. This realization can sow anxiety and force the Kremlin to expend political and material capital on reassuring its population, diverting focus and resources away from its offensive objectives in Ukraine. Ultimately, this bold strike fundamentally changes the dynamics of the war. It marks a clear transition from a conflict defined by static front lines to one characterized by long-range, precision strikes and asymmetric warfare. Ukraine has demonstrated that it does not need to match Russia tank for tank or soldier for soldier to inflict meaningful damage. Through technological innovation and strategic daring, it can hold high-value Russian assets at risk from afar. The message from Kiev is unequivocal: distance no longer guarantees safety. This new reality forces both sides to adapt, reshaping the battlefield and setting a new, uncertain course for the conflict ahead.